Oh my, what a wonderful group of people. Let's have another round of applause for our Dole Caregiver Fellows and our coalition members. In 2014, the Foundation's RAND study revealed an alarming range of challenges and negative outcomes endured by those caring for our wounded, ill, and injured warriors. RAND's experts asserted that the only way our nation could help our caregivers address these challenges was through a response that was holistic in the issues it addressed in the organizations that offered support and coordinated to establish common priorities, build partnerships, and collaborate on the path ahead. Looking back on the last year, we've not only seen remarkable support programs developed and expanded for our caregivers, programs initiated and led by many of you here today, but we've seen allied groups working together, funders teaming with service providers, and ideas, resources, and best practices shared across the board without pride of ownership. Jennifer Gearing of the U.S. Chamber spoke about their caregiver hiring initiatives, which have inspired the private sector to understand the value of employing our caregivers and to commit themselves to making caregivers a part of their workforce. And because a caregiver's employment struggles don't simply end once they've earned a job, organizations such as the Paralyzed Veterans of America are furthering the Chamber's efforts, developing resources that educate employers on how to create caregiver-friendly workplaces. One company that launched a caregiver hiring program, La Quinta Holdings Incorporated, took its commitment a step further by partnering with the Brain Performance Institute at the Center for Brain Health, University of Texas at Dallas, to offer cognitive training for caregivers, enabling them to better juggle their endless list of daily caregiving responsibilities. Two programs we announced at the White House last year have been wonderfully successful in helping caregivers take on the complex worlds of legal and financial planning. Our friends at the Military Officers Association of America have partnered with the American Bar Association, Vets First, and the Education Foundation of today's sponsor, USAA, to produce an online caregiver legal and financial planning guide that has been accessed more than 23,000 times, and the numbers are going up each month. Lawyers for Heroes, a collaboration led by Public Counsel, MOA, and the ABA, has provided pro bono legal services to military caregivers that have already yielded nearly $500,000 of benefits in the first year. And they've told us to spread the word because they have the capacity to take on a great deal more. I'm proud of Lawyers for Heroes. It was one of my foundation's first collaboratives. The Financial Industry Regulatory Authorities Foundation created a guide for warriors in transition and their caregivers to learn how to save and invest the benefits available to them. And the wonderful folks at the PenFed Foundation recently approved a 5-year strategic plan for expanding their programs to military spouses, families, and caregivers. A pro bono legal service, Justice for Military Families, was launched last year by the Military Spouse JD Network with the support of Newman's Own Foundation. And the Military Spouse JD Network also partnered with TAPS to assist with the legal needs of families who have paid the ultimate price for our freedom. The financial and legal planning needs of our caregivers are extraordinary. And while the demand may be too great for any one entity to take on by itself, the combined services of this collection of organizations is beginning to bring our nation closer to where we need to be. Jed Johnson spoke earlier about the model work that Easter Seals is doing, and the Rosalind Carter Institute for Caregiving is also doing magnificent work in this area. Their Operation Family Caregiver program offers problem-solving training to military families in 7 locations, as well as nationally through Skype. Johnson & Johnson provided the catalytic funding for this program, and the measurable impact on caregivers has been wonderful. Decreased depression, greater confidence, and increased satisfaction with life. Now, as many of you know, I'm a proud graduate of Duke University. In fact, I even have my Duke blue on today. And I consider myself to be an ACC fan for life. But today I'm going to break ranks for a moment to celebrate two institutions of higher learning from the Big Ten that have established mental health programs for military caregivers and their families. Purdue University's Military Family Research Institute has now trained more than 3,200 civilian behavioral health professionals in military cultural competency, with the assistance of funders including Wounded Warrior Project. And the University of Michigan's military support programs and networks, known as MSPAN, is dedicated to addressing mental health needs for our veterans and their families by finding innovative approaches to outreach, overcoming stigma, and the design and delivery of programs. MSPAN, which is part of the Welcome Back Veterans National Initiative, a collaboration between Major League Baseball and the McCormick Foundation, is just one of the many examples of how universities can partner with other nonprofits and funders to improve the lives of military families. The National Alliance on Mental Illness launched its Homefront education program last year, and like many of the programs we are highlighting today, it was developed through collaboration with leading experts, including those from our research partner, RAND Corporation, the VA, Department of Defense, Army OneSource, United Health Services, and the Rosalind Carter Institute. All these programs are bringing greater peace of mind to our caregivers, yet we know the emotional and psychological tolls of caregiving can still be overwhelming. While all this great work has been going on, my foundation has continued to further expand the coalition and raise awareness of who America's caregivers are and the significant role they play. Earlier this year, the Foundation's Caregiver Fellows Program announced a new class of inductees. These hidden heroes have been invaluable to us, serving as ambassadors and advocates and informing our work with their hard-earned wisdom and experiences. Would all our Dole Caregiver Fellows please stand and be recognized? Please. Hey. Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much. This is my extended family. That's exactly the way I feel about each and every one of you. These remarkable women and men have been the focus of hundreds of media stories, including a daily tribute running this month in the Washington Times. And they have contributed to thousands of volunteer hours. Oh my goodness, something like tens of thousands of volunteer hours on top of the many responsibilities they have at home. Their role in coordination with the efforts of our coalition partners has inspired much of the progress we're celebrating, and I cannot thank you enough. God bless each and every one of you. American Airlines and Hilton Hotels, with additional support from Bank of America, Yellow Ribbon Fund, and Hope for the Warriors, have sponsored the travel and accommodations for these fellows to come to Washington to participate in nearly 200 meetings with members of Congress, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, and the White House. Earlier this year, our fellows advised the participants at our two-day Impact Forum, which our friends at Booz Allen Hamilton stepped up to support and host as chief facilitator. And let me just say that there's a very special group of people with us today from Booz Allen Hamilton, and I really want to emphasize special. Booz Allen Hamilton has contributed so much to the efforts of our coalition over the last 6 months. We are a stronger, better organized, and strategic organization because all of the pro bono support we have received from Robin Portman and her team. To Robin, Andrea, and Sacco, and all our Booz Allen friends, we say thank you for helping us harness the power and passion of our national coalition. And guess what? We're just getting started. God bless you all. Now back to the Impact Forum being held on the Booz Allen campus. In advance of the forum, my foundation formed 7 impact councils comprised of nearly 200 experts from across our national coalition. They are focused on the key areas of need as identified in the RAND study. This gathering laid the foundation for the challenges and solutions we will focus on in the months and years ahead. It undergirds our commitments, our promises to America's caregivers. Now let's look at the upcoming year for a moment. Members of our Mental and Physical Health Impact Council will focus on expanding caregiver services in these areas, including launching the National Alliance on Mental Health's Homefront program in 6 new states and growing the reach of Purdue University's training. Our Education and Training Impact Council will initiate the development of new training materials for both caregivers and providers. The Psych Armor Institute has taken the lead in working with each of our councils, each of them, to develop training modules related to their greatest issues of concern. Capital One and the fellows on our Employment Impact Council will be working with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in educating caregivers on how to seek out caregiver-friendly workplaces and secure the jobs that best match their skills. Following on the caregiver outreach programs already launched by Pastor Joel Osteen and the Jewish Chaplains Council, the leaders of our Interfaith Action and Ministry Impact Council will work together to educate houses of worship of every faith on how to serve caregivers in their communities. Our Respite Care Impact Council will be focusing on developing ways to educate caregivers about available respite services, to promote the efficacy of utilizing respite care, and to build meaningful bridges between military families and state lifespan respite programs. And our Community Support at Home Impact Council will help launch and support a broad-based national awareness campaign that you will learn more about in just a few minutes. Complementing all this wonderful progress from the private, nonprofit, and faith communities will be the dedicated work of our partners in Congress. Once we had a sense of the gravity of what the RAND report was going to reveal 1 year ago, I began meeting one-on-one with members of Congress to share the serious problems we were uncovering, briefing more than 100 members in a matter of months. And it has indeed paid off. Last July, I asked Senators John McCain and Jack Reed, Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi, and Congressman Jeff Miller to launch the Hidden Heroes Congressional Caucus to facilitate legislation supporting military and veteran caregivers, and each of them readily agreed. And just last month, working with the foundation, Senators Patty Murray and Susan Collins and Representative Jim Langevin introduced the bipartisan caregiver legislation entitled the Military and Veteran Caregiver Services Improvement Act. Ladies and gentlemen, these are just some of the highlights regarding the progress we have made. And I just want to say how much I appreciate the work of my superb foundation team and those at Susan Davis International SDI, and also Seth Watkins, who is my pro bono lawyer. He's very, very busy, but he's able to handle anything and everything. The breadth of organizations doing their part is extraordinary. And when you bring them all together, you see the powerful and effective relationships that have been formed to make it all possible. For those of you here today, if you're thinking that you or your organization could be helping us do even more for military and veteran caregivers, we'd love for you to join us. We want your support, we need your support, and we welcome you to start today because of the work of our councils is ongoing. As they pursue the goals they set forth, each Impact Council is being led by distinguished co-chairs who have volunteered to take charge. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, they're doing just that. I'd now like to ask each of our co-chairs, who are also listed in your materials, to please stand so that we can recognize and thank you for all your hard work. Please stand. Hello. Thank you. Oh, heartfelt thanks to each of you for taking on this role. I know you all do outstanding work through your own organizations, and I'm grateful that you've agreed to further extend yourselves in support of this important cause. Oh my goodness. Let me just say heartfelt thanks to the First Lady Michelle Obama, not only for helping, yes, she helped us launch the National Coalition 1 year ago, as you all know, but also she's been putting joining forces to work on raising awareness of military and veteran caregivers over the last 12 months. And I want to thank her, too, for returning to the stage this afternoon to reaffirm her ongoing commitment to America's hidden heroes. That was tremendous. As many of you know, I first became aware of our Hidden Heroes challenges 5 years ago, when my husband Bob spent nearly a year at Walter Reed. I'll never forget the people I met there. I got to know a mother and father trading shifts, watching over their only son as he recovered from 40 separate surgeries after a devastating attack from a rocket-propelled grenade. When his father traveled back to Mississippi for work, he sent his son daily scripture verses to be taped on the walls of his little hospital room. In another room, a young wife slept on the floor at her husband's side on a pallet as he began a long recovery from a double amputation. The strength of these caregivers was incredible. Over that 11 months, I observed their determination. They were unrelenting. Yet you could see on their faces that they carried an emotional weight so heavy that it made it hardly bearable. Still in shock over their new reality, they were forced to make significant life decisions for which no one had prepared them. Their worlds had been forever changed, and they had no way of knowing what was to come. And we've heard a lot about that today in very personal ways. But as I sought to learn more about America's military and veteran caregivers, I was also awakened to the situations of those hidden heroes at home, supporting loved ones who may have never set foot in a hospital, but who sustained invisible wounds. These caregivers were not thrust into their role by a phone call in the middle of the night. Rather, for many, they gradually assumed greater and greater responsibility for their veterans' well-being as the effects of their injuries slowly revealed themselves over time, and we've heard that in a very personal way today. Many of these military families had separated from their service before the signs of post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury appeared. They had moved away from the resources of military installations. They were now living in communities where healthcare providers and even their neighbors were not likely to understand their difficult circumstances. Many of them felt completely isolated and alone, as we've talked about today. I think that's what troubled me most. We have a long way ahead, a long road ahead, as we've said several times today, to better support our caregivers, and a lot of work to do. But when I think back to the days when I first met those hidden heroes that I've just described, anchored to the side of their loved ones, so strong and determined, yet humbly blending in with the background, I couldn't help but sit on this stage today with a smile on my face and tears in my eyes, witnessing the progress we've made. The First Lady of the United States has valiantly continued to fulfill her promise with the Joining Forces Initiative. Secretary McDonnell, our nation's chief advocate for those who serve, strongly reaffirmed today important principles. America cannot adequately care for our wounded warriors if we do not care for their caregivers. And while they may not always wear a uniform, he's made it clear caregivers most definitely serve too. Tom Hanks, perhaps the biggest and most talented name in Hollywood, announced he will lead a campaign to tell every American about the service and value of our military and veteran caregivers. Leaders from the public, private, nonprofit, faith, and labor communities came together today to share the tremendous progress they have made over the last year. I had the privilege of sharing with you some of the list of actions our National Coalition and Impact Councils have already taken and will take in the coming year. Actions that represent the commitments of a remarkable list of leaders and organizations. And perhaps the most profound sign of the change that has taken place for America's caregivers was the chorus of caregiver voices we heard from the stage today. These voices did not come from the shadows. They did not come from behind the curtains. They came from the stage, front and center. They were the voices of conviction, voices of empowerment. They were voices I've heard crescendo over the last year, informing, guiding, and inspiring action. Today, their message was loud and clear. If you hadn't heard from us yet, you've certainly heard from us now. I've spent nearly my entire career in Washington, and I have to tell you, what we witnessed today was something very special. Our military families have served our nation for nearly 240 years, and it is truly inspiring to see America come together around the loved ones caring for our wounded, ill, and injured warriors in the ways that they need and deserve. This progress has been made possible because all of us in this room are working together. Thank you so very much for taking action in the names of the individuals caring for those who've cared for us. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless this great land of the free, America. Thank you for being here.